Taiwan's solar industry has two major limiting factors: the country's small size and high population density. But there's one type of renewable power completely unaffected by these factors: offshore wind. And in a stroke of serendipity, Taiwan is just the place for harvesting wind energy. In 2010, data from NASA showed that wind speeds along the Changhua Coast easily reached 7 meters a second all year long, putting it among the world's best locations for wind farming. In 2013, an ITRI study found that Taiwan had enough space for more than 5,600 square kilometers of offshore wind farms, with a total installed capacity of 29 gigawatts. Now that's enough to power 20 million homes. And in 2014, engineering consultancy 4C-Offshore released a study of worldwide wind speeds over 23 years. 9 of the world's top 10 sites for offshore wind farms were in Taiwan's waters, with average wind speeds clocking in at almost 12 meters a second. So there's every reason to be optimistic about wind power in Taiwan, right? Why then are wind pioneers like Robert Tsai feeling so gloomy? Let's find out.
The crew sets off from Long Fong Fishing Port in Miaoli's Zhunan Township. And before long, we're welcomed by turbines towering out of the water.
我们这两部风机是Siemens。
Our two turbines here are Siemens SWT-4.0. Running at full capacity, they generate 4,000 kilowatt-hours an hour. So that means they can each save 2.4 tons of CO2 every hour.
Offshore wind is a ray of hope for Taiwan's transition away from nuclear. The government hopes that by 2025, it will be the second largest source of clean energy after solar power.
各位看到的是海洋风场的第21号跟28号风机。
Taiwan's offshore wind hit a major landmark in May 2017, when 2 trial turbines went into commercial operation, the very first offshore wind installations in the country. But for Tsai and his team, the road leading up to that moment was a tough one.
过去政府审批是有7个。
Back then, to pass government review, 7 committees had to approve your proposal. The Environmental Impact Assessment Committee was one. There was the Submarine Cable Licensing Committee and the Building Permit Committee, the Artificial Island Committee, the Management Review Committee. You need at least 3 or 4 years to do the feasibility study, the various environmental impact assessments, and the relevant designs.
And the miles of red tape were not the only problem. Taiwan's docks don't have the capacity to handle turbine parts like piles and blades. So wind energy developers must rent shipyards to load and unload their components, and then assemble the turbines at sea. When the weather or sea conditions are inclement, work falls behind, and ship rental fees, fuel costs and personnel expenses climb.
现阶段我们最担心的还是
At this stage, what we're most concerned about is basic infrastructure, because at this point, Taiwan doesn't have any professional-grade ports for loading and unloading. The government is working on this, but it needs to step up its efforts. It really must. It must be very, very determined.
The government plans to invest 684 billion NT dollars in promoting wind power as part of its forward-looking infrastructure program. 3 docks dedicated to offshore wind are planned for the port of Taichung. The first should be completed in early 2019.
离岸风电规划的是3个吉瓦。
The plan is to have 3 gigawatts of offshore wind. That will take almost 800 turbines, if they're like our units. So if you start today, you need to install about 100 turbines or more every year. That won't be easy, honestly.
This April, the government selected 7 offshore wind developers and designated 10 sites for wind farms, picking up the pace of its push for renewables. Over 60% of the new development will be in Changhua County, and all the farms are scheduled for completion by 2025.